Well, 4 early games this Sunday. We have 2 starting right now as well. We'll have full highlights and LeBron's press conference a little later. I'm Chris Miles. Welcome to Game Time Live. The Jet, Jason Terry to my left, Greg Anthony even further to the left, here with you this evening. It's only appropriate we start today's show with the last team that you played for, those Milwaukee Bucks, as they have the best record in the league facing the Philadelphia 76ers. Stars are aligned. Giannis, an MVP candidate. Joel Embiid, I think he didn't miss a couple of games, would be also a very high MVP candidate. Ben Simmons, GA came out. Explosive is the word.
Came out, set the tone, great energy early on, and that's kind of been the staple.
Chris Middleton with the response on the other end. Now, guys, when you hustle, sometimes you might get a bit parched. You know, you need a little refreshment. Mike Scott gets some here. Now, looks dangerous, but check him out. He's just chilling. Has a little sip of the cup. Thank you.
Oh, don't do that.
You know what? That might have been a little yak. That might have been some yak and coke.
Oh, so the backwash didn't affect it at all.
No.
I don't know if they serve those at NBA games, but I will take your word for it, GA.
They sell alcohol. I know that. You can get some of that game.
Joel Embiid provided
that
a surge. And then Tobias Harris. That's good defense and a soft touch.
Tough move.
Third quarter belongs to one Giannis Antetokounmpo.
That's just as unstoppable as anybody if he can get 2 feet in the paint.
Going downhill, 17
I guess
points.
They didn't get the memo. They ain't get the scout
in the
memo.
third quarter. Joel Embiid, though, tough on the other end in the fourth. Good defense there, but null and void. Then Giannis, you know, he leads the league in points in the paint. It's a good indication.
How many
there.
feet, GA?
2. You get 2 feet in the paint, it's trouble.
Don't forget Jimmy Butler. He's a closer,
Jimmy buckets.
especially in the fourth quarter. 2 good moves, the setback 3, and then the finish in the paint. So this one comes down to the wire. Late in the fourth, 7-point game. Giannis and Ben Simmons. Message being sent here, Jay?
Mouse in the house, feed him cheese.
The real message is, Brett Brown, you got to adjust your defensive philosophy there. You can't allow the man to take 2-3 dribbles that deep without bringing somebody to help. He's probably going to be the MVP.
48 points for Giannis, a new career high. Now, Simmons, to his credit, right after that, response, GA.
Yeah. Back at you.
Oh, okay.
Watch it. Look at all you
I
look
like
at
it.
Okay, yeah.
But don't forget that Ben Simmons and Giannis, that's a nice battle, go back and forth, but Ben Simmons has helped from that guy.
Dagger me. Good night.
Joel Embiid, 4 3-pointers, 38 points.
Oh, my God.
And we still have time left in this one, but look at those numbers. Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid, Giannis with the 50-piece, 16 rebounds, 7 assists. Here's how the Bucks got it to within 3. You kidding me? Klay Thompson-Lopez from the logo, expanding his game this season, very effective.
Brook Lopez in the playoffs will have to make a majority of those long-range shots just to keep the paint open for Giannis Antetokounmpo.
3 for 9 for 3-point range, Brook Lopez. And the Bucks in general, they're playing without Malcolm Brogdon, who we know has been their glue guy this season, tore his plantar fascia, right? Plantar fasciitis is what you call it, but in this case, that's the diagnosis. Out apparently at least 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
What does that do for these Bucks?
Well, it definitely hurts them on the perimeter because, again, he's another guy that spaces the floor. He can also create his own shot. He gets to the basket, and he's a deadly finisher. When he does get to the basket, he's very efficient. 50, 40, 40.
Yeah.
That is an exclusive club, and the former Rookie of the Year is just having another great year this season, and it's just unfortunate that once again, right before the playoffs, he'll be sorely missed.
Yeah, to me, he's so vital. I don't think they could win a championship without him. You know, Chris Middleton, most people consider their second best player. For my money, it's Malcolm Brogdon because of all the things he does. You know, he doesn't need the basketball to be effective, can guard multiple positions. And coming into the season, I had more questions about the backcourt with Bledsoe and Brogdon, but give Mike Budenholzer and those guys a lot of credit. They've made it work. But not having him, you're talking 6 weeks, he could, in essence, be out. He may not be back this season. You just don't know. It's going to be a challenge without him. They've got other guys that can step up. Pat Condon had some solid moments tonight, but Malcolm Brogdon is really kind of a stabilizing force in that backcourt, so he is going to be sorely missed.
The other thing about having an injury to your lower extremities this late in the season, you won't be able to condition yourself to get back out there. It's not like you can, get shots up or cardio-wise, you can stay in shape. So when he comes back after 6 to 8 weeks, after being out there long, he's going to be behind the 8 ball. It's going to be tough to get his rhythm back.
Getting back to this afternoon's game between, we'll just say it, Giannis and Joel Embiid. I know in the highlight we saw a lot of Ben Simmons and Giannis going back and forth, but it's Joel Embiid and Giannis in the conversation as the two best players in the Eastern Conference, and we saw them at their best. So to you, in watching this game, who affects the game more, Joel Embiid or Giannis?
Wow.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really that tough because they both equally impact the game as much as one or the other. I mean, Giannis, obviously what he does for his team statistically every night, points, assists, rebounds, getting to the free throw line, and defensively, he is a man back there. Look how he rolls in the paint. Then they use him in isolation situations. He gets to the paint, 2 feet in the paint, money Buckets. In the bank.
And then he's shot the three-pointer.
Don't add the hezzy pull-up three to your game, which you will always get, right? He's going to always be open from outside, and he'll be able to set his feet and take and make shots if he's confident.
Giannis 3 for 8 from three-point range.
3 from 8, got to the free throw line 21 times, made 19 of them. So more consistent there. But I'm kind of with Jet on this. I think they're equally as dominant in terms of their impact on the game because, Embiid right now I think is the best defensive center in the league as well. Offensively, I don't know that we've ever had a center with the complete package that he has because you got to add in his ability to shoot the three. He's a really good free throw shooter at that center position. And remember, he's not the focal point of the offense in the way that Giannis is. He doesn't initiate their offense. And, Giannis had a big 52 and 16. He only had 40 and 50 and 6 assists. So he was, he was treading a little bit, but he found a way to help his team get a win. So that could be a heck of a matchup if those two teams go at it in the second round.
So you said something interesting there. By the way, that score final now, the Philadelphia 76ers with the win over the Milwaukee Bucks, 130-125. As far as Joel Embiid being the best defensive center in the NBA, what about Rudy Gobert? Who else is on that list?
Well, I think those are the two best. The thing I like about Embiid a little more is he's a little better in space. He's a little better at guarding guys off the dribble. Rudy Gobert is a monster. I would not have to deal with Rudy Gobert from a defensive standpoint because the paint he owns without question. But you also have to factor in the responsibility that Embiid has offensively. Embiid is their primary offensive player. So when you're doing that and you're giving what he gives on defense, I mean, that's a load. And part of his defense is the fact you got to deal with him. And that also plays a role. So Gobert is an incredible defender and a terrific talent. Has had a great year this year. But the overall package that Joel Embiid brings for me, I think that's the guy that when you talk centers, it begins and ends with him.
Continuing with the theme of defense, Super Mario got the best of King James in the Garden today. Highlights coming your way next. You're watching Game Time. Kevin Durant is out for a second straight game, will not play tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Fine, Chris. The ankle feel pretty good. He's walking normal to me.
Reports say he'll return on Monday. 8:30 start for that one. Here's Steve Kerr.
Moody's coming off one of his best games as a Warrior. This is another chance for him to use his size against Steve Adams. How do you see him matching up against the league's best centers when he is one of the league's best centers?
Well, he's got the size to match up with all the biggest centers, which is great for us. And especially tonight with Adams. Adams has always given us trouble with his size and strength. So it's a good weapon for us to have. And then, he's so skilled that he can beat you in a lot of different ways.
Have you guys decided, you got an upcoming back-to-back and he hasn't played both sides on yet. Do you know if he will?
We're going to talk everything out tomorrow with Rick and any of the other guys who we would consider resting.
Is that like a hurdle you guys want him to get over at some point, or you just?
It's more just whatever's best for him. So.
Their defense has been really good all season long. What is it about them that makes it such a good defense?
Very athletic, very active, athletic on the wings and in the front court. So they pose a lot of problems. They play the passing lanes. You got to be careful with the ball.
Steve, Steph and Clay and other shooters have often made the comment that like one shot can turn the tide of any shooting slump. As a shooter yourself, like what is it about that one shot that can change things?
I needed more than one, personally. Steph only needs one. Clay only needs one. I think those guys are so confident. It's just a feel thing. You know, they see the ball go in, and it feels right, and then they just repeat that stroke. But you know, a lot of great shooters have said that over the years. Just takes one.
Is there an element of confidence that you just have to be born with, or is confidence something you?
I think you earn confidence, you know, with your work ethic and you know, going through some tough spells and learning how to dig your way out of that. So yeah, it's different. Everybody's a little different, but you know, we got guys who have great confidence. It's one of the reasons we've had a lot of success.
Steve, is there anything specifically you need to see from Jerebko or McKinney or Cook for those guys to secure a rotation spot in the playoffs the next couple of weeks?
I don't look at it that way. Whoever we play, you know, we want everybody to be prepared for and ready, and certain matchups make sense for certain guys and other matchups make more sense for others. So they just all need to stay ready.
So Kevin Durant also missed the game against the Houston Rockets earlier this week on Wednesday, and Boogie was the one who stepped up with 27 points, 7 assists, 8 rebounds, arguably his best game in a Warriors uniform. Are you expecting an encore performance from him tonight?
Tonight, the last couple weeks of the season, playoffs, I'm expecting Boogie to explode. Here's why, Tough Juice. I've been fortunate enough, and Steve, I always say I thank you on air because since we've been doing Players Only Tough Juice late October, early November, I've been watching him work out, watching him go one-on-one full court.
You have?
Understanding he was going down playing with the G League, never complaining, just waiting for that leg to get 100%. I did that Warriors game against the Wizards. I talked to him personally, Tough Juice. I said, when did you realize your leg was back? He said, I'm coming down the steps with my son to pick him up, and I was no longer hesitating. And that's when you hear those stories of he was ramping up the workouts. He was ready to go. Then they said, wait one more month to make sure. And he didn't complain. He waited one more month. So now he's 100%. All-Star break has come. And now Steve Kerr said, no more minute restriction. Go play your game. And guess what, cuz? We're going to give Kevin Durant some rest so we can play through you. What do you mean by that? Well, we're going to put you in the mid-post like we do with Draymond. And instead of looking to pass every time, go do you. And he's like, wait a minute, what do you mean go do you? No, go be you. And by being you, he had 7 assists in the first quarter with 21 points. And he's like, oh my goodness, I'm not used to having all this talent around me that everyone's watching Steph Curry cut. They're watching Klay Thompson cut. I'm one of the best passing big men in the game today, and I'm still a young guy. I understand now, the more unselfish I am, the ball's coming right back to me because my teammates are so unselfish. So I'm going to answer your question again, Chris. I'm looking for Boogie to explode for these last couple weeks of the season and into the playoffs.
And against Steven Adams, Karan.
Yeah, I think this is a great test for him. And look, you're not fully healthy until your body and your mind are both connected and you're healthy together. You know, sometimes you can be mentally healthy, but physically it's just not there. So when you're able to react in the way that's warranted to be a professional athlete to the measure of what DeMarcus Cousins was prior to taking that injury and that hit, and now you're welcoming the challenge and saying, you know what, I want the same coverages as everybody else in pick and roll situations. I need to know what I'm going to do, you know, going forward down the stretch in order to be effective with this ball club, because Bogut is coming, expected to be on this roster and expected to be with this squad. And I think DeMarcus Cousins is going to be a huge, huge anchor for them on the offensive end and the defensive end coming down the stretch.
And a matchup we have to talk about secondary because of all the talent on the court, but they are primary players in Steph Curry and Russell Westbrook. You have former MVPs, Mr. Triple-Double versus Mr. Three-Point Range. How excited are you for this matchup?
I'm super excited, but if we're keeping it 100, Klay Thompson's guarding Russell Westbrook most of the time. That's the only part. But I know Steph the last couple of years, Tough Juice has taken on the challenge saying, "No, Clay, you go over there and fool Paul George now. I want to guard Russell." That's what makes this thing juicy now, because if you put Steph Curry now over there, he's not going to guard Paul George by himself right now. You see what I mean? So that's what makes this matchup so juicy now. Both guys have to play deep.
Yeah, I think it's super important for both of those guys to play extremely well when you talk about the Splash Brothers and Curry and, Clay. But the thing that's going to be extremely funny is that you don't have KD out there. And he's the guy that usually offset everything. So now you have to actually win your matchup. And Russell Westbrook is going to attack Steph Curry early and often. He's going to try to post him up, get him in foul trouble. And if you have Clay on him, he's going to try to, beat him on the pick and rolls and try to lay as much wood as possible on him. What do you mean by that? He's going to get hit with a ton of picks, a ton of screens, try to wear him down on the defensive end of the floor, and hopefully that affects him on the offensive end of the floor.
I like how you used a euphemism there. You said offset everything, as in the cheat code is really what Kevin Durant is for this Golden State Warriors team.
Facts. You thought I was talking about the Amigos?
Well, getting back to the topic at hand, looking at OKC and where they are this season, and Paul George being in the MVP conversation, Russell Westbrook still averaging a triple-double. How do you like them, not just in this game, but as a real threat in the postseason against the Warriors?
They're going to be a huge threat to pretty much anyone because you have two dynamic guys on that roster that could take over a series. Russell Westbrook can win you a series when he's clicking on all cylinders. His shot is starting to fall. He's starting to get his legs up underneath him. Paul George is having the best season of his career. He can go out there and win you a series on both ends of the floor. So when you have the other guys, the others stepping up in a major way, Grant, Adams, all those guys knocking down shots, facilitating, doing the other things, that's a scary, scary team, and it's not going to be an easy out.
Dennis Schroeder, you missed that name. You throw in Ferguson, you talked about Grant, and now Markieff Morris for the toughness.
Huge.
If those guys play to their abilities, then yes, you take them serious, because it frustrates me to say all the role players. What is it's Paul George and Russell Westbrook's role to be super, right? Don't they get the max money? So if they're playing like max players and all those other players we're talking about are playing to their role, then you can say, yes, they could go in and win on a Game 7 in Houston or in Golden State, wherever they have to, or possibly wherever it is, because those two guys are playing at the level that we told them for.
He looks stress-free, too. He just looked like he's happy where he's at. He's comfortable in the role that he has now, where he can be, the alpha 1A some nights, and then he can step down to 1B and let Russell do what he does. And they both just really complement each other extremely well. So I'm happy for Paul George. Excellent decision by him, in free agency, and it looks extremely rewarding.
Let's take a look at the Western Conference standings and try to pair these teams up and see where they'll be in the first round and also beyond. So for the Rockets, they're in an interesting position. Half a game ahead of the Blazers.
3, 4, and 5.
Still kind of chasing 2 with the Nuggets, but the Nuggets playing so well. Seems like there's
like we talked about with the Eastern Conference. I don't see any of those teams losing 4 in a row or 3 in a row, because you have to do that to kind of jump a team outside of obviously 3 and 4 because they're tied right now.
So break
Thunder,
it down,
one game
the second round matchups that we could possibly see, or to the conference finals, why it's important where these teams finish.
Well, obviously you want to stay away from the Warriors until, if you're possible, to the Western Conference final. But some of those teams like Portland, they don't care right now. Portland's like, we're in. We saw what happened to us last year. We got swept by New Orleans. So we got to come back like gangbusters and improve. Last year was a fluke. We're a better team.
How about the Thunder and the Rockets? What's the best seed for those two right now, 3rd and 5th out west?
I think the Rockets welcome anyone, with a healthy Chris Paul. I think OKC welcome anyone, with their 2 stars being healthy, and you talk about Schroeder and all those guys, that they're playing amazing basketball. They're able to knock down shots when they're open. They're able to, give them breaks in those spots, the 5 to 8 minute moments where Russell Westbrook or Paul George need them to be the best possible version of themselves. So, and then you look at the Portland Trailblazers, that's not going to be an easy out. You got two guys that's so dynamic. They can go out there and score 30 apiece in that backcourt. And let me not forget, the way the Utah Jazz are playing on the defensive end of the floor,